Good afternoon, everybody. As I said, good morning for us here in Israel. I'm happy that all of you joined this webinar today. It shows that it's really an important subject, and it is an important subject. My name is Ariel Frishow. For those of you who are not familiar with me, I'm the VP Sales for EMEA and APAC at Asian Video Intelligence. And what I want to do today, we have about 1 hour of this webinar, is really present the transfer or transition of our SAVI product that all of you are familiar with innoVi solutions. The way that it will work, I will do some comparison, some slides to show you the comparison between SAVI and innoVi. I will give a brief demonstration for those of you who have not yet seen innoVi and are not familiar with all the functionalities. And then I will explain the actual program that we are presenting today for migrating existing SAVI customers to innoVi. At the end, I will leave 15 minutes or so for Q&A. During this presentation, you can see on your Zoom menu a Q&A session. You can just ask questions during this webinar. At the end, I will go over these questions one by one, and I will try to answer, or I will answer all of them, or the majority of them. So without further ado, let me start. Again, just one slide about Agent VI. Most of you are familiar with us, our partners. Agent VI is a global leader in video analytics, established in 2003, and since then we have thousands of deployments of our analytics solutions in the market. We have developed multiple generations of product, and actually innoVi today is our 4th generation of analytics solutions that we are selling. We started with VA system, moved in 2013. We launched SAVI, which majority of you are familiar with and using it. In 2016, we launched the 3rd generation of product, which is actually the first innoVi generation, which was a pure cloud-based intrusion detection system aimed for the central monitoring stations. And early on this year, we have launched innoVi Enterprise, which is our main platform moving forward, which actually includes all the capabilities, all the feature set of analytics that we provide today. Again, it is basically replacing and enhancing our previous products. As you have seen in our invitation, we are ending sale of SAVI in about 4 months from today. And this was the right time to approach our partners and show you what does it mean, how do we move from SAVI to innoVi, what are the benefits of doing that, and what are your options. So a quick explanation, what are the differences between SAVI and innoVi? SAVI, as you may well know, is a video analytics platform that was based on prior generation of pixel-based analytics. At the time, this was the prevailing technology in the market. SAVI was very advanced, was considered for several years as the top vendor or the top product in the market. But it has, as a pixel-based analytics platform, it has some limitations. First of all, limitations in object class classification, because it didn't really recognize object. It classified object based on heuristic assumption regarding to size, aspect ratio, speed, color, direction, and so on of a group of pixels. It was prone to false alarms, especially in very challenging environments, such as outdoor environments, bad weather conditions, bad or pure light conditions. And it was quite complex to set up and maintain. One of the biggest challenges of video analytics, generally speaking, and SAVI was no exception to that, is that in order to achieve high accuracy, the user, the installer, the system integrator had to invest a lot of hours until he managed to get somehow a reasonable performance. And that was the word of this type of solutions. It was not only the problem of SAVI, it was basically all the pixel-based analytics generation were suffering from the same thing. Other limitations of SAVI was that it has limited capabilities. What it had, intrusion detection, left object, and so on, which are quite basic, were based on motion detection concepts, and was not able to do complex scenarios or complex behavioral capabilities, purely because there was no recognition of such events. And third, remember that SAVI was developed in a completely different era. We started developing the solutions already back in 2003. 2013, SAVI was launched as an enhancement to the previous VA system. But that was an era where, when I joined Agent VI 15 years ago, the biggest analytics projects globally in the world had only 200 cameras, okay? Majority, 99% of the projects were based on single site, relatively small number of cameras, 10, 5%, 10%, that was a very big installation already considered. There were very little interconnectivity between sites. So even though we do have in SAVI, and we did have in SAVI, few customers that were trying to federate and centralize multiple sites, it was limited. It required high bandwidth, it required very stable network communication, and it was not an easy task, but there was also not a lot of requirements. And then another challenge was that whenever we launched a new version or a new feature, the existing installation were able to be updated only during such technology refresh or update. So usually once a year there was a major release, and 2 or 3 times a year there were minor releases, bug fixes, and so on. And customers not always were able or capable of doing that during the regular operation of systems. And this is really where innoVi is becoming more than an evolution, is becoming a revolution in the way that analytics is deployed today in the market. First and foremost, the concept of analytics is based on AI, artificial intelligence, which actually, to be honest, is not really a technology, is more of a marketing term. But under these marketing terms, there are technologies based on neural network, object classifications, and machine learning, and deep learning, which are real technologies which essentially classify much better and many more object types. So just taking an example, if using a pixel-based analytics, you could classify vehicle, that's it. It's just one type of vehicle, and maybe do some sub-classification based on size, Here, using the AI classification or deep learning classification, innoVi actually enables the customer to know exactly what is a bus versus a truck versus a van, pickup truck, private car, differentiate between motorcycle, bicycle, and so on and so forth. In addition, the system employ self-learning capabilities, which means that it doesn't require any manual tweaking. You don't need anymore to say, I need to detect a person, the size is 1.8 or 1.7 meters. It is really something that is done automatically through this self-learning and auto-calibration of the solution. Obviously, there are much more advanced capabilities and use of analytics. I will show later on what does it mean. And last but not least, over the years, projects has become bigger and bigger, and the demand for analytics is much bigger. Today, we can see many large-scale many large-scale customers, 500, 1,000 cameras that require analytics not on 5% of the cameras, but require analytics on 50% of the cameras or on all the cameras in some cases. And there is a trend which is growing more and more to go to a cloud solution, mainly understanding that the cloud or a more advanced IT deployment is really enabling customer to run analytics very efficiently on multi-sites deployments with remote connection, interconnectivity between sites, with easy updates that occurs regularly, all the things that the cloud solution enabling our customers. So really, in a nutshell, the differences between SAVI and innoVi. In terms of the analytics engine, just a few words about that. When we say video analytics or AI-based video analytics, essentially what we mean really is the capability to do what you see in these pictures. The capability to classify objects such as person, okay, and detect very accurately without the need to do any tweaking, any fine-tuning, even in very challenging environments, whether it is steam or raindrops on the lens, or here you can see one of the biggest challenges of analytics, snow environment, or simple bugs in front of a camera. These use cases in the era of SAVI and the like, the pixel-based analytics, what you get today almost free of charge in any camera. This type of images would create huge amount of false alarms and will make it unusable. The AI, actually, the deep learning classification allows us to ignore the bugs, focus on the person, ignore the snow, focus on the person, detect and classify accurately. And this is really the revolution on the AI solution. In terms of expanded capabilities, so as you may remember, and let me jump here quickly okay. SAVI was a very versatile system in terms of enabling many different types of capabilities. Different rule-based detection system, video investigation. We launched SAVI Analyst, actually the first video investigation or search engine in the market ever. We launched it already in 2014, and statistical data. But and innoVi today obviously provide all these capabilities and beyond, including anomaly detection. I will explain later on what does it mean. But it's not only the fact that we have a parity of the feature set, but each set is done in a much more accurate and enables us also to add additional capabilities much easier whenever there is a requirement from the market. When you look today on the full object and behavior feature set that we provide, First of all, you can see the type of analytics that we are providing customers: occupancy, crossing line, moving in an area, stopped vehicles, anomaly detection, grouping, unattended object, asset protection. All these are action or events that are generated in real time. These are threats that you want to protect your system. And you also provide statistical data such as people counting, traffic statistics, and so on, which are more retroactive or post-event. The AI engine allows us not only to provide all these events, but also to focus on specific type of object. So if you want to detect not any stopped vehicle, but only trucks that are stopped in a non-truck stopping zone, you can actually define a specific object. And then obviously in terms of the parameters, just defining very basic parameters. There is no more need to do all the tweaking and fine-tuning of a system, which sometimes creates a big barriers to deploy analytics, because if you have a system with 1,000 cameras and you know as an integrator or as a customer, you know that you need to invest 10 hours net per camera until you get the results that you want. Multiply 10 hours by 1,000 cameras, it's impossible. I mean, that means that you cannot really deploy analytics. If you would do that on 1,000 cameras, you will be able to deploy it in 2 days or 3 days. It's a totally different ball game. And this is really one of the things that we are bringing to the table with the innoVi today. In terms of the anomaly, this is a feature that is actually quite unique and interesting. The concept here is that we identify, especially in complex environment like safe, smart cities, large transportation hubs like airports or big railway stations, we found out that the rule-based analytics is really not usable because, first of all, there are too many objects. And second, customers don't really know what to look for. So if he doesn't know what are the threats, the potential threat, there is no point to define rule-based analytics such as line crossing or overcrowding on a railway platform, because there will always be a lot of crowd of people on the platform. What we do know, however, and this is what we noticed, is that when something strange does happen, whether it is, as you can see here, a march on the street, or people start to run in panic, or there is a car accident in the middle of a motorway, or any other behavior that is unusual, then obviously we as people, we see it, and then we say, yes, this is something that is interesting and relevant for me. So what we've developed is an anomaly detection capability, which allows the system to be trained on the regular scene of each and every camera in the customer site, learn what is the usual behavior of objects, people, vehicle, motorcycle, and so on and so forth over time. And then after a short training period, the system will start generating alarm in real time for anything that is not usual. These alarms will later on can be tagged by the customer, whether it is relevant or irrelevant, because of course, anomaly is subjective. Something that is normal for one customer may be considered as abnormal for another customer. The system will just prompt an unusual event detection. The operator will decide whether it is relevant or irrelevant. Another layer of capabilities that we introduce in innoVi and doesn't exist in SAVVi is the geospatial analysis, or the capability actually to understand not only what is the object, what is the behavior, and on which camera the event or the object occurred, but we are actually able to connect this data to a real GIS map and understand the exact location of the object, which allows us to present that object on a map in a very accurate manner, but also trace objects across multiple cameras using the map as a way to define the region where you are looking for the object, and then provide that data in a very easy, intuitive, visual way. In terms of investigation, I will take it one step backwards. Basically, what innoVi is doing is in real time analyzing each and every of the cameras in the system and creating very rich metadata of all objects on all cameras, so that later on you can use this metadata in order to query and find object of interest or event of interest within seconds. Which means effectively, if you have a project of, let's say, 1,000 cameras monitoring an airport, and you are looking for a specific person with red shirt, black trousers, you will have the information immediately. You don't need to start indexing retroactively and do it post-event. The data is already there. The access to the data is immediate. Again, within seconds, within minutes, you can get access to any type of objects on any number of cameras you have in the system using very intuitive, very simple search tools. As you can see here, I will demonstrate shortly in my demonstration. And in a similar way, you can use the same metadata in order to create statistical reports for people counting, vehicle statistics, traffic analysis, and so on. What we are not doing, we are not a BI platform. What we do, we provide the same way that we are not a VMS platform. We provide the raw metadata, and this metadata can be exported, integrated easily to any BI platform that customers might use. Improved architecture, again, unlike SAVVI or any other analytic vendors in the market today that are working either completely on a camera or completely on a server, we have designed innoVi to be, first of all, a federated or centralized system that has two components: the innoVi core, which is the management layer of the system, and the innoVi edge, which is the analytic layer of the system, and enable it to run as a centralized system that runs the innoVi core at the center, innoVi edge at the customer or network of the cameras. As I mentioned earlier, we launched innoVi initially as a full cloud-based, hosted by us, provided as a SaaS service to our customers. Today, we offer innoVi also on-premise for customers that cannot work on the cloud due to any reasons whatsoever, networking, bandwidth, cost, regulations, whatever. We are enabling to run the innoVi core locally at the customer data center, or if a customer wants to use another hosting provider and not us, we can run it also on any other cloud available today in the market, but it is the same product. How it actually works, the innoVi edge connects to any camera through standard protocol, RTSP, OnVstream. It is doing already the analytic layer on the edge using the deep learning and machine learning capabilities for metadata extraction, object detection, and event generation. We stream very, very low bandwidth metadata stream from the edge to the core. Remember, the core, when it resides on a cloud, we cannot have or we cannot require a very large bandwidth. So we are streaming 1.5 to 5 kilobit per second of data per camera only. And then through an open API, the innoVi core can communicate with any other third-party application. You know, most of you are using Milestone, Genetec, Variant, or whatever other VMS that we already have integration with. the Open API allows us to push such events in a very easy way to third-party application. One of the things that is important is that because we decided to work on remote sites, local sites, sometimes sites have 5 cameras, sometimes they have 500 cameras. We had to make sure that the cost of the edge is very reasonable. This is why from the very beginning, we decided not to work on GPU, which are expensive. We are the first to collaborate with Intel to work on their native CPU, which means essentially that we take a standard off-the-shelf server or PC, and we can run hundreds of cameras on the server, which is very cost effective in that respect. One slide before I go to my short demo and then discuss about the SAVI transition to innoVi. What does it mean? Obviously, as I mentioned, we are selling today both cloud as well as on-premise. You need to take into consideration that when you make a decision which is better for you, at least from the TCO, from the total cost of ownership, you need to always to remember that when you are running a software on-premise and you are paying X amount for the license, let's say $100 for the license, underneath this license cost, there is a huge amount of hidden cost which relates to the hardware, the IT personnel, the maintenance, training, customization, and so on and so forth. So buying analytics and asking for a cheap price for the license not always is beneficial for the customer. Whereas when you go on a cloud solution, the same $100 per license is practically the majority of the cost. The customer doesn't really need additional investment, which eventually makes the cloud in the long run, short and long run, very attractive. But of course, we do realize that many of our customers, government, prisons, and so on, cannot accept the cloud, and that's fine, that's perfectly all right. We can provide them with the full on-premise installation. Next, I just want to go for a quick demo just so you understand and get a look and feel of the solution, because some of you might not be familiar with it. This is my demo account, which I'm running on our cloud. When I'm logging in, I see a basic dashboard or the portal of innoVi, where I have the administration module, the monitoring module, investigation module, and the reports module. You have basic settings. We are putting a lot of emphasis on the user experience in terms of how to manage large amount of cameras, especially if they are located in a lot of on multiple sites. So we are using a map system. When it is hosted by us, we're using Google Map, which means that customers don't need to have a Google account or subscription to Google. Everything is part of our subscription fees. And then you can see in one snapshot all your sites. You can access from within the map a specific camera. In this case, it is just a live camera that is running in Finland. And once you have the camera view, you can start deploying the analytics as you need. The first thing is associating the camera field of view to a map. As I mentioned, we are using GIS coordinates in order to understand the exact GI location of a map, of an object. So the way that we do it, we take the field of view of the camera, we place reference point or calibration point on the camera, as you can see here, point A, B, C, D. And then these points are positioned on the actual map of that the customer is using. Once it is done, I already did it, I will not redo it. The algorithm understands, you can see on the right-hand side, you can see the, okay, you can see on the map how I move the red dot. The algorithm actually understands very well what is the position of each point in the field of view and how to position it on a GIS location. Once we do that, all that is left to do is define the relevant application. For example, rule-based analytics. I can define different type of rules. Let's say, for example, in this case, I want to see, this is a restaurant. I want to see if any large truck or bus is entering, because usually they are not allowed. So I can simply state, I want to see if I have moving in an area. I can define easily the area of interest, and I can define which objects are relevant for me. In this case, I'm interested only in bus and trucks that are moving in this area, and basically that's it. Okay? I don't need to do anything else. I don't need to fine-tune, to tweak, to measure anything. Just simple rule configuration. And then when there is an event, when there is an alarm, I can see all the alarms presented here on this graph per hours, 6 hours, 1 day, 14 days, whatever customer is using the data. Sorry. And I can access the alarms from within this graph. I can go into this bar, push it, and it will bring me all the relevant events over the last, whatever I put here, okay? Let's say the last day, I've seen all kinds of detection. This is the van, these are the people moving in an area. I can get immediate access to an event from within the dashboard. We provide a short video for verification, okay, of the object. You can tag it as true or false, and so on and so forth. Quite simple, and this is presented also on the VMS. So if you are using today Milestone or Variant or Genetec, actually the events will be presented in the same way with the overlay on the user interface of the VMS partner. This is when you are doing on a single camera. When you have multiple cameras and you know that you have a lot of events and you want to make sure you are not sure which cameras or what is the position of the event, we can go to a map view of the system, and then very easily from within the map view, I can just very easily see, okay, where is this truck, where exactly was it located? I can zoom in, focus on the map. It will take me directly to the map itself. It will show me from within the map the location of the object. I will be able to play back the events from within the map. Again, let's why it doesn't provide here. I will be able, when using our own solution, I will be able to go even inside the street view of Google and actually be able to play back the events from within the street view, which actually means that the operator sitting in front of the system has a much better and much more intuitive understanding of what is happening and where it is happening, okay? Which we believe is quite important. Then the last things that we have is the capability to investigate. The investigation part basically is based on parameters that are already kept in the system, such as location, object class, color, behavior, and so on. We provide a very intuitive way to do the investigation. For example, I can ask on a map to query all the, to query all the area that are all the cameras that are covered in this region. Or alternatively, I can just ask for searching specific cameras, like these two cameras in my office, and that camera in the US. I will say what I'm looking for example, a person. I can use color, like a top part of the body, a bottom part of the body. I can use timeline, okay, let's say the last 24 hours. I will do a search. The system will go immediately and fetch the relevant information. We don't need to re-index, we don't need to do anything else, and you can see the detection accuracy even in very challenging and far away distance. If you look, for example, on this camera, we are zooming in to the object so the operator can see easily, but this is actually the field of view of the camera. So you can appreciate that the detection, even of color, even in not well illuminated environment, is very accurate. Okay, I want to go back to the presentation just to to show, to actually discuss, okay, what does it mean? What are the upgrade options from SAVI to innoVi that we have? As you've seen in our invitation, we have announced end of sale of SAVI starting March 31st, 2021. That means that there are actually, for existing SAVI customers, there are three options for you. The first one is you can still purchase SAVI licenses until March 31st. If you have a quote, if you have a project that can be closed in the short term, you can still buy it. We have announced end of sales. We have not announced end of life or end of support. We are going to continue supporting the system for several years ahead of us. The second option that you have is to upgrade your existing system to innoVi. In this case, there is a one-time special conversion program that I will relate to in the next slide. And the third option, especially for those customers that know that they want to migrate from SAVI to innoVi, but they are unable to get a decision or budget in the near term. So the third option is to buy additional software upgrade plan, SOUP, for their existing SAVI system in order to preserve your upgrade options in the future, okay? So again, existing SAVI customers, there are three choices: buy new licenses of SAVI until March 31st, upgrade your existing SAVI to innoVi today with a one-time conversion, a special conversion program, or keep your SAVI, buy additional SOUP covering the future until you have the budget and capabilities to upgrade to innoVi. Those customers that have existing quotes of SAVI but have not purchased yet, what we are offering them is to convert to an equivalent innoVi quote, which is equal or sometimes even less than the original SAVI quote. That means that if you have today a project, let's say of 50 cameras where you already quoted your customers with SAVI, we will give you for the same amount, the same quote, innoVi at the same price. There is, of course, a consideration on the hardware because the hardware for innoVi and for SAVI is different, but at least in terms of the licensing cost, we will respect this, this quote until March 31st, 2021. Beyond that, all new systems beyond March 31st, 2021 will have to be quoted on innoVi based on the standard innoVi prices. Okay. Next, how is the conversion or the special upgrades offer for existing customers? As you probably know, in SAVI, we have different bundles. SAVRT2, SAVENterprise, SAVCORporate, SAVRT1, SAVPerimeter. But in innoVi, it doesn't work that way. In innoVi, we have a single license for all capabilities. So what we are doing, we are simply taking all your existing system, converting them to innoVi as is. And the way to do the conversion, there are actually two, there is a timeline for conversion. Any service systems that was purchased before March 31st this year, 2020, and any service systems that was purchased and installed after March 31st. Let's take the first case first. As I mentioned, we offer innoVi either as a SaaS model hosted by us or on-premise installed by the customer. There are two different conversions methodology. If your customer is willing to work on AgentVI hosted solution, the conversion will be quite simple. You will have to pay only the equivalent of the SOUP, the service SOUP, to innoVi yearly per year. As an example, if today the SAVEnterprise license list price, MSRP, is $990, and one SOUP is 18%, which means $178.2 per year SOUP for SAVI, we will convert you for the same price on innoVi. So the only things that you have to do is just convert the system and pay whatever you had to pay for the SOUP for SAVI. This price is locked for 3 years. So if you already have projects today that you need that you want to upgrade to innoVi hosted by us, we will guarantee this price for the next 3 years. Okay. If you already have purchased SOUP, let's say that you have a system that you purchased SOUP that is valid until 2022, for each SOUP that you already paid for, we will give you 18% discount of this price. Okay, so just to understand, if you need to pay $178 per year per camera, but you already purchased in advance and your SOUP is covered for 1 more year, then for this 1 more year, you will pay $178.2 minus 18% for what you already paid. Those customers that want to convert to innoVi on-premise, they will need to pay, they will actually get a perpetual license. This is not a SaaS. There is a one-time conversion cost, which is equal to 2 times the SOUP, meaning that if you have one SAVENT license, the SOUP is 178.2 for the 1 year, you will have to pay a one-time cost, which is double that price, 356.4, which is one-time migration cost, okay? The remaining prepaid SOUP will be applied, meaning that if you purchased last year 100 cameras of SAVEnterprise with 3 years SOUP, okay, and you want to upgrade today, 1 year later, you want to upgrade or to migrate to innoVi, you will pay one-time fee, a migration cost, which is equal to 356.4. These are MSRP before the discount, of course. One-time migration cost. And the 2 years that are already paid, you will not need to pay additionally because they are already paid. Okay. As for any service system, any purchase order that was made since March 31st, 2020, we will simply, if you convert it to AgentVI hosted, it will be the same mechanism as above, meaning that you have to buy 1 year of AgentVI. It's an annual license, which is equal to 1 year SOUP. And again, if you already purchased in advance SAVVi's soup, it will be discounted. If you convert it to customer hosted, you will get a full credit for whatever price you had. Meaning that if, for example, you purchase SAVVi licenses for $10,000 and an equivalent system in innoVi will be $12,000, maybe because innoVi maybe is a little bit more expensive, we will credit fully for the $10,000 already paid, and you will have to pay only the remaining amount. That's my presentation. I see that there are a few questions that have been raised. I will try to answer your questions. So actually, I see that the main questions are more related to the feature set rather than the conversion. One question was whether the accuracy of color in nighttime compared to probably daytime. So this really, the answer to that really depends on the camera setup. First of all, as you probably know, many cameras are using IR and then automatically they switch to black and white. So if the camera is switched to black and white, there is no color, okay? That's a simple answer. If the camera that you are using does have a night color detection, I would say that generally speaking, the quality of the color detection of the camera, and again, you have Axis have their own night color detection, Hikvision, but today majority of the camera vendors provide different color definition. Obviously, the quality of the color will impact the accuracy of color at night. It is important to understand, though, that we are using AI. We actually tagged colors using AI or deep learning or neural networks that we have trained, which means that we have trained also, or we tagged colors in different scenarios, including at nighttime. We are not using the physical color of the pixels. That means that if we as people tagged a person in red in a nighttime color, because we as people identify it as red, a physical pixel analysis might put this color as brown or green or whatever. And this, by the way, was one of the biggest challenges of SAVVi at the time, how to detect accurately colors. In innoVi, we expect the color detection, even during nighttime, to be much better, as I showed you in this demo, right? In this demo here, you can see the color detection of people. Okay, I see the camera is upside down for some reason, but you can see here that the color detection, even here, which is very, very difficult to identify the red color, okay? The lighting here is not really clear, and unfortunately, I cannot move it to a full HD resolution. This is how the system works. The definition or the detection of the color is very accurate, okay? Another question, does innoVi have an on-prem status as customer? Yes, so as I mentioned in my presentation, we provide today innoVi both as hosted by us on the cloud using a SaaS model, but also hosted locally on-prem, completely on-prem. It does require installing the innoVi core on-premise. We provide the hardware spec to the customer or based on the project requirements. based on whether there is a need for high availability, redundancy, and so on. Everything that we do automatically on the cloud doesn't automatically come also on premise, because on premise, you don't have unlimited resources as we have on the cloud. So when the customer comes and says, I have a project, a safe city, protecting a city in Thailand, they need 1,000 cameras. We are providing the hardware spec and the installation guide to install it on premise, and then it's completely on-prem. Our time is almost up. I have a few more questions. I hope I will manage to answer all of them, but at least one question. Let's see. If there was a project discount on the original SAVI purchase, we continue to use 18% formula to calculate innoVi conversion. So again, let me explain the formula. I may not provide the correct explanation here, okay? The examples that I gave you here, okay, this 18% were reference to the MSRP. Of course, remember that when we are working with partners, a partner gets, the SI gets X amount or X percentage of discount. 10%, 20%, 30% depends on the partner level, depending on the project size. And sometimes we are also working with distributors who get additional discounts. So whatever discount breakdown was on the survey, a similar discount will be here. So the 18% is 18%. I put here MSRP as a reference, but of course the 18% would be from the actual purchase price, okay? We do have a slightly different partner program in innoVi compared to SAVI. In SAVI, it was a bit complicated and was not really fulfilling its purpose. In innoVi, we have a single partner level, and we provide a project-based discount rather than partner-based level discount. So it is more easy to calculate, it is easier to understand, and it is easy to incentivize customers based on actual projects. So it's slightly different. But the 18% is the same 18%. So if the MSRP is 990, but you purchased at 700, the 18% will be from the 700. I believe that that's pretty much it. I hope that it was useful for you, this session. I hope that you managed to grasp what we are trying to achieve here. Feel free to contact me directly for any questions on any specific projects, any migration that you are thinking to do. My details, you know my details. This webinar is also available. Later on, we will send you a link to download the webinar. And I hope to see you soon again, I mean, face-to-face. Zoom is a great tool, but we hope to be able to travel again and meet again face-to-face, have a beer, discuss projects, go to customers, and have great business together. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Sayonara.